Okay. Good evening. Thanks, Reese. Welcome to the June 2nd Hartland Selectboard meeting. It's 5:30. The first order of business, we have 2 minutes from May 19th. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes, the regular minutes of the 19th, as well as the executive session minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Okay. Any comments? John, if you're taking notes under the town manager update,
Yep.
I would like to add, there's a sentence, the Public Utility Commission has closed the ITW filing. I want to identify what something like for the proposed communication tower, because a lot of people may not recognize what ITW is or who they are.
Okay.
Any other suggestions? Trace, your set?
Good. Yep.
Clyde?
It seems to be.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Just an update. Tom Kennedy just texted me, and his fence is not working, and the cows are out. So if anyone wants us to go help right now.
I rode by, I can vouch for him, he's out.
You just passed. You kept going though.
But yeah,
Tom can be a little grumpy when that happens.
Yeah.
What's happened a lot?
Okay, back to the orders through June the 2nd.
You have another set of minutes, unless the motion.
No, we do. Yeah,
we did
both minutes. Okay.
We joined them together.
Okay.
Okay. We need a motion to accept the invoices up through June the 2nd.
I move we pay the invoices up through June 2nd.
Thank you, Clyde. A second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments? John, what were the legal fees for?
Monahan Safar.
Monahan, yeah.
That is the attorney that we used in preparation for the ITW hearing.
Okay.
And public meeting that was held.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have is the $5,000 to Twin State for hard pack, and is that because of the Saturday night storm from a few weeks ago?
No,
or is
we're
it just normal
just
business?
hauling hard pack as normal.
Okay, thank you.
Trying to use up the allotted hard pack budget for this year, so get as much of it as we can.
Yep.
Because we will use it.
Any other questions, observations?
No, it's good.
There's just real quick follow-up. At the last meeting, there was discussion about why the warrant that was in your packet was different than the one that you signed. So the payroll taxes get added to the one that you signed. So they're not on when the invoice edit gets printed at the end of the previous week. Because payroll gets run on Monday. So that's that difference.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Going on, are there any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, we're smiling. We were just joking around a little bit before. Moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments? I would like to extend a thank you to the Garden Club for on their May 22nd, their sale. Not so much for the sale, but I came to the sale and I was quite impressed with the number of volunteers that were digging up the tulips and getting the other garden beds aligned. So thank you to all those volunteers that worked to help keep Damon Hall looking as good as it does. Okay, any comments online?
No comments online.
Okay. And moving on to old business, we need to readdress the local emergency management plan, which we had signed a few meetings ago. And John, you'll explain what's going on.
Yep, so there was a new form that Vermont Emergency Management is requiring us to submit it in. So Tyga Christie, who is our local point of contact with VEM, took all the information from the old plan, transferred it into the new plan. We are simply readopting the plan. It was brought to my attention just before we started that there's a couple of boxes that kind of got unchecked in that transfer process, but I will recheck those when they get submitted. Those are simply saying like Damon Hall, as the Emergency Operations Center, has computers and a copy machine. So we're just double checking those. So again, nothing has changed. It's just in an updated form.
Okay, so do we need a motion then to re-accept it?
Re-adopt it, and then Phil, you need to sign it.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion that we re-adopt the local emergency management plan.
John, is there a date that we can add to Jim's motion?
As effective today.
And I would make it today.
Okay.
The date on June 2nd.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay.
Just
Who am
John, is that accessible to the public? Was that basically how the town operates during an emergency?
It is not how we operate during an emergency. It's really kind of a call out list of these are the resources that we have available to us. Here's who's authorized to make purchases in the event of an emergency and things like that. So
Is it on your website?
it is not on the website. It is not. I'm trying to decide if I want to say it should be or not. I don't know off the top of my head.
No, because I don't know what's in it.
Yeah, that's what. So I want to take a look at it. So my gut is no, Sherry, because there's people's private information in here.
Right.
So yeah. So it gets submitted to the state. They have it as a resource. Individual, the fire department has one. We have one here.
But yeah, you did put on the website the non-emergency numbers.
We did.
So that's all there. So
Yep. Yeah.
So as an individual, you go from there. What's going on, in our area to get help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to new business. We have John here with us to talk about Old Home Days and the preparations. Hard to believe it's a month away.
Come on up then.
All right, so Old Home Day falls on a Friday this year, so parade 10 a.m., fireworks dusk, we've got that lined up. We've got music vendors going. Because it falls on a Friday, the farmers market vendors are also going to participate. And what's nice is Trisha Wass, who is the farmers market vendor, has agreed to handle the layout of vendors for the mix of 4th of July and just Old Home Day vendors as well. So that lifts something off of my plate, which is nice. So then I will go down to the start of the parade this year. John updated the parade guidelines for us last year and we created a sign-in sheet as well for everyone down there, mostly for people driving automobiles. So it just gives a little bit of accountability, gives us your name, your license plate number, and your phone number too. So I think that was kind of like the biggest thing for us. I think that's the biggest concern is driver behavior in the parade. That's like, I think probably our biggest concern on Old Home Day. So that gives us contact info for that. We've got bounce house, portable mini golf, lots of different food. We've got a band right after the parade. We've got a band lined up before fireworks. There'll be ice cream. It's a lot of the same vendors from previous years. People tend to honor their gigs, and it's convenient for them just to line it up on the 4th of July. And ironically, it's hard to find it's hard to find new vendors or the vendors because everybody stays with their prior commitments. So everybody goes to Leb or to Hartford or to Hanover or to us, people that we have in place.
John, when you said there's going to be a blending of the farmer's market with the regular vendors, does that mean that the farmer's market's moving down to the gazebo area?
Correct, to the gazebo area because we park on the soccer field and as close up to the library as possible. So we
Yeah,
take
that
their
makes
usual
sense.
space. Yeah, the pizza oven will fire up though as well.
Okay.
So give them like a little bit, they'll have a little bit of space over there. So.
How are you doing, hesitate to ask, but with your volunteers?
It's a different game now. In terms of a rec center, my committee has always been really good about being present on the 4th of July. So my committee members will be there and help us set up and get organized with our games tent. Whereas 15 years ago, this used to be all community organizations running off of volunteer. Now there's like less and less of the community organizations participating in the 4th of July, and it's more commercial vendors coming to make some money. There are still like some of the school organizations like the drama club that come in, have parents that volunteer to run their booth to make some funds, but the community organizations in terms of that volunteerism have disappeared. Right. Yeah. Right. But we'll have the community band in there, which is awesome. They'll march as usual. Yep. And then play some music under the gazebo after the parade as well. How
about parking on the main library fields? Is there help for directing traffic there?
Yeah, we can line something that up. I think we've always had like a couple of the rec people go over and help make sure everybody gets started. It's mainly getting it started, getting people informing the rows, and then everybody starts to fall in line. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Great. And do we have any floats this year?
We'll have, they haven't really started to get the float participation in the parade sign up going yet. It'll happen. It's usually Aging in Hartland, maybe Four Corners or Child Care Center if they're still kicking around for things like that.
Great.
Our parade seems to be trending more of cars, tractors, and fire trucks these days.
Yeah, it's been a bygone year since we've had any livestock in the parade.
It's the insurance part of it is what I've been informed. That and like it's usually a hot day and it's just not great to bring your animals out and get that heat reading off of the road.
Okay.
Then we've been in contact with the Queens County Sheriff again, so we're providing the same kind of level of service that they did last year to help with traffic flow, particularly at this end of the parade.
Okay.
So usually we have
3 corners.
constable at the start and sheriffs at the end. Which helps.
Great.
Yep. Sheriffs have definitely been a presence, which is nice.
Okay.
Any other Old Home Day questions? Or another news, we had the Covered Bridges Half Marathon yesterday.
I was going to ask you about that.
All things considered, it went as well as it could go because it did not look good midday Saturday because all of the parking for the event is now down on the Quechee Polo Field. They had mowed it the week before, so it tried out remarkably well for as much the rain that we took on Saturday. Definitely cut down to discourage spectator traffic at the finish line, so there wasn't as many cars at the finish line as usual, but that went well. Mason and I were there for Sunday, and we helped set up the parking lots, help with the shopping, picking up U-Hauls, and getting ready for the race. So it's always a nice event to be a part of.
I haven't seen any times, but it should have been a fast race with the cool weather, a tailwind, and a downhill course.
Yes, somebody broke the record last year at just over, I think it was like an hour and 9 minutes. I don't remember off the top of my head. Somebody was close, but I didn't hear that the record was broke this year. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there was one individual I didn't recognize who was way out in front.
You're chuckling.
That's moving. Yes, that's really cruising.
Yeah. Some of these new runners are fast for sure. Yep, we've got our concert series lined up again for this year. I'm excited about that. I'm going to have a vendor, just one food vendor for each of the concerts. I feel comfortable now that we're consistently drawing enough people that it's worthwhile to have a vendor there, and that's just an additional draw. I've had quite a few people that live within the village tell me that even though they may not be out on the field or under the tent watching, that they come out onto their porch or enjoy going for a walk in the park or, listening to the music from a distance, or even some people told me that the times that we did have food, they'd come get the food and then go home and sit on the porch and listen to the music from their porch.
Great. And the summer rec programs are filling up?
Yes, summer camp it started a few years ago where people wanted the registration earlier and earlier. So now I start the summer camp registration in late February. And I have to let Martin know that I'm going to do it, because I think it was 3 years ago he called me and said something is wrong. It was like tens of thousands of dollars just went through your website. I was like, no, that's correct. We opened summer camp registration. It's that crazy now. It's like it goes like the vast majority of it goes within the first week that we open it up. We have a few spaces here and there as we learn of people's vacations and change of plans, but for the most part it fills right off the bat.
Good.
And we're offering like a range of different field trips throughout Vermont, New England as well.
Good.
We're trying to do an overnight rafting trip. Again, I think we have enough registrations for that. So we'll
I saw that one.
go for a host organization. Yep, it was fun.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look forward to, I'm sure you'll be busy on the 4th, but
Yes.
look forward to it.
Yep. Having Trisha Wash take on the vendors is going to be, that's huge for me, because then I can walk away and know that she'll be lining people up and I can go down to the start of the parade and make everybody sign in.
Great.
Yeah, that would be good.
And we'll slip in as usual.
I was going to ask, if I'm going to walk in that parade. Yeah.
Right.
We'll see. Maybe we can not have like a 90, 95 degree day this year. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Okay. We've been talking for some time about the next agenda item, the town and highway capital plan. And John, you want to do?
So I'll give you a quick overview, and then, so Brian Kowalik with the Two Rivers Regional Commission is online. So this was being done through the Thriving Communities grant that the town was a part of. One of the few communities in Vermont that was part of that grant. So Brian has kind of been leading this. We've met, he's met with myself a couple times, and BJ, the road foreman, a couple times, to kind of get in some of the information. What you have in front of you did not go in the packet. It wasn't quite ready in time. This is a first draft, kind of laying out the framework of what the capital plan is, and kind of describing what it is. So this is certainly not meant to be adopted or taken as the final product, but as a first review and to generate questions and conversation from the board, and with Brian, who is online. And let me. All right, Brian, are you with us still?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So as John said, my work on this is being covered by the Thriving Communities grant. This is considered technical assistance that we're providing the town through this grant. At first, we were going to limit it just to transportation projects, highway equipment, and the town garage. But from discussions with the select board, we've expanded it to include the other town-owned buildings and facilities. So now the budget has tabs within it for North Hartland School, for Damon Hall, for the Recreation Center. So to date, I've primarily worked with John on this and with BJ to get what capital projects they anticipate for the next 10 years, add them to the budget, and when we know ballpark figures for those projects, adding them into the budget as well. So that's where the actual capital budget, the Excel document, is at the moment. I've also been working to create the program report for the capital budget. This is something we recommend doing at Two Rivers. It's our interpretation of statute that you have to have a program report that goes with the budget, which provides more elaboration on the projects themselves. So I have that as well. So the first part of this, is that in front of everyone?
Yeah, Brian, the program report is what everybody has right now.
Okay. I have worked on it more today, so I have completed the sections.
Okay.
I can send that to everyone for the review afterward. This right now, and I can share it. This right now is, of course, still it's a draft, and it's meant to provide a little more elaboration on all of the projects that are listed in the actual Excel file, as well as provide an overview of what a capital budget is. This is supposed to be a public document for public consumption. So it is written to provide context of what capital budgets are, what they do for towns, and then also add a section in here talking about the ways that the town can finance these capital projects. There's really 4 ways: municipal bonds, grant funding, direct appropriations, and impact fees. Impact fees probably won't come up in any one of these situations, for any one of these projects, I mean. But then following that section about the methods of financing, and I've added some context that I hope is useful for different grant programs, just as they relate to things that are going to be in the budget. Then have it broken up between transportation projects, which just includes the Queechee Road rehabilitation and the North Hartland covered bridges repair. Then a section about highway equipment, so the highway equipment purchases.
Brian, can we stop for just a second, see if there's any, I think there's a couple questions or comments.
Yeah, Brian, I'm looking at the paperwork that's in front of me. I can't read what's on the screen, so I'm losing your references. Can you?
Oh, sorry.
Catch us up here a little bit?
Yeah, so the first page, just an overview of what a capital budget is and a program report.
Yep.
The second section deals into methods of financing for capital projects.
I'm good with that. Yep.
Yeah, and included in there under grants, grants that are going to appear in the rest of the document as potential funding sources for projects. There's a lot more grants out there in the world that I didn't mention, but I felt these ones were important. Budgetary appropriations, so direct appropriations from either reserve fund, general fund, or highway fund. And then last, a short thing about impact fees, which won't come up in the as a funding source for these projects.
It's worth noting that in that list of grants that Brian provided, you know, we're trying to capitalize on as many as we can, but with some of these larger projects, you know, when the maximum grant award is $200,000, that goes a long way for certain projects, but not very far when it comes to the Queechee Road, for example. So
Right.
it's just worth that grants have their limitations. We'll take as many as we can, but
They do. They also have match requirements almost always. You can also be denied a grant. That's an important thing to note. So hopefully that does provide useful context for when residents do ask, why don't we get grant money for this? It might not exist, or it might be very competitive and you might just not be selected. Then the rest of the document is broken out between sections about transportation projects, highway equipment, and then the town buildings. So the same projects that are listed in the capital budget itself are then listed here. There's an elaboration on them, a discussion about the likely costs and what years these projects would be implemented.
And some of what you're seeing in there is Brian and I kind of having a conversation. So this is, again, there's a formal adoption process for a capital budget.
Yep.
And this was kind of filling in to start the conversation. So some of these numbers may change, and obviously some has changed in light of some, you know, recent events with town trucks and things like that already. So
Yeah, the product that's going to be coming at a later time is really the spreadsheet.
Is
This the bottom line.
Exactly. This is like the kind of the overview report, like Brian mentioned.
Right.
The spreadsheet that goes along with this, though, is the kind of the meat of the capital budget.
Right.
It's the thing that we track. Right. It's not set in stone once it gets adopted. It is a living and changeable document.
And the timeline is approximately a 10-year scope.
You're
10
looking
years
about,
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we recommend a 10-year scope for a capital budget, but statute expects it to be 5 years. There's nothing wrong with doing a 10-year.
5 years is short when you're looking at some of the projects that we're looking at.
Yeah, you're right. And 10 years is long when you're trying to do building maintenance and you're trying to anticipate things you can't foresee.
Right, but when we talk, for example, when we're talking about trucks, and it talks about trucks in here, if we're doing trucks on a 7-year basis, it's beyond the 5, so it's good to have that 10 years, and then we update it on a kind of yearly basis, and we go through it, and, here's where we are, here's what we didn't get to do because of, other priorities.
Yep. And in the document right now, there's things I've highlighted in here which need a fact check. So I note that I don't know for sure that this, like for instance, under Queechee Road Rehabilitation, I can't recall the name of the engineering firm that did the engineering report. So there are some factual details I need to add, and of course I'm open to edits throughout the document.
All right. Well, this is exciting for us to get started on this, as it's been a project on the future project list for quite some time. And what I did not understand that there was actually a state statute that was guiding this. Is it a requirement? Yep. Is the guidance that is?
Is it a requirement to have a capital plan, or is it a requirement to go? Yeah.
There's no requirement for towns to have a capital plan, but it's considered a non-regulatory tool to implement a town plan. So there's a section of statute devoted to describing what a capital budget is, and also for adopting a capital budget.
Okay.
And then with the adoption of a capital budget, towns are able to levy impact fees on new developments. So if a new development is going in Hartland and they wanted to have a town highway leading to it, with an adopted capital budget, you could statutorily, you're enabled to levy an impact fee on the developer to pay for the construction of a new town highway, for instance. Same for water or sewer if you had that.
Okay. A budget is a plan. And my question, I guess, does this need to be approved by the town at town meeting, or is it really a select board plan?
No, the adoption process is actually pretty simple. You need to send a copy 15 days in advance to the town clerk and to the chair of the planning commission. It's also a good idea to have a copy available for public viewing. Then you need to have a hearing, just a select board hearing. I would do the same, like send out notice in the paper 15 days in advance. Warn the meeting 15 days in advance that you're gonna have a hearing, and it's just a select board hearing. And then after the hearing, if there's really no feedback from the public, the select board can adopt it at a select board meeting. And then the select board is free to amend both the program and the budget as updates and changes come. You're free to do that just as a thing, an item within your select board meetings.
Okay. Okay. Jim, any thoughts? Okay.
So again, this is, obviously far from a final product right now, but it's definitely progress in the right direction. And, hopefully, Brian, the next, month or so, we can, fill in a lot more detail, especially on the town building side of it. We've been focusing on the highway side, but some of our larger projects really are around, the kind of maintenance and ownership of structures. So we'll work to kind of keep filling in those details and bring it back to the board.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's good.
There's still a lot we don't have ballpark figures for.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll put a stake in the ground, we'll continuously change.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So, great.
Okay.
Yep. And I will send John, I'll send you a copy of the program report as I have it right now.
Great. Thanks, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, thank you. Thank you for your work with the Planning Commission as well.
Yep. Kevin will be there on Wednesday to meet with the Planning Commission and talk about the land use chapter of the town plan.
Right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Right. If there are no other questions for Brian on this, then let's move on.
Okay.
The next item was a discussion about services from Senior Solutions. Mark, I take it you are representative?
I'm a little surprised that my cohort who planned this event is not here.
And she did respond to emails saying, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So,
But I think I can probably manage without her.
She could be helping Tom.
Yeah, maybe she's helping wrangle loose cows.
Could be. So I did bring some propaganda that I'm happy to hand out, and I'm also, again, I don't know what she had planned. I'll just talk generally. Senior Solutions is actually a private not-for-profit agency. I say that because we're often confused as a state agency, but we're basically an NGO. We have state contracts and we have federal contracts, but we are a private not-for-profit. We are one of 5 area agencies in the state of Vermont, and we cover 46 towns, starting up in Thetford, most of Windsor, all of Wyndham, and 3 towns in Bennington County. So a pretty extensive service area that we cover. We provide some direct service, if you want to call it that. We have case management services that we provide mostly to long-term care Medicaid clients. Long-term care Medicaid is a program for people who are nursing home level care and want to stay in their homes. So we provide the care coordination or case management to enable them to stay in their homes, to bring in services they need. We do provide some limited case management to non-Medicaid clients under the Older Americans Act. And that's part of the federal program that we're funded through. Actually, 30% of our budget comes from the federal government through the Older Americans Act. And so we do provide some case management, limited case management under that. We have a helpline, which if you're familiar with 211, it's very similar to 211. It's a resource phone line. So we have staff on our line from 8:30 to 4:30, 5 days a week, provide callers with all sorts of resource information and referrals. And one of the important things that they do, which also is what Liz does, who was supposed to be here, is we provide a lot of assistance with applications. So anyone doing an application for fuel assistance, for low-income subsidy to help pay for their Medicare premiums, for 3 squares, for rebates for their electric service or things like that, we will help them do those applications. Basically anything that helps them save money to pay for their daily needs. We'll help them with assistance for that. One of the important aspects of the Older Americans Act, and I talked about this a lot, is that we're much more than a service agency. I spend a lot of my job really out collaborating with and networking with other community providers. And we're actually charged under the Older American Act to collaborate, to plan and support community networks of systems, so that there's a safety net of systems, not just within Senior Solutions, but for instance, I do a lot of work with Aging in Hartland. In fact, I'm on the board there, so I do a lot of collaboration around services, a lot of work we do with town nurses. Again, for instance, we understand that, the time that town nurses have to spend with any particular client is limited. So I'm always talking with town nurses, not just here, but all over the Upper Valley, about how they do a handoff to Senior Solutions. Instead of town nurse spending 5 or 6 hours doing a Churches for Care Medicaid application, they can hand that off to us, we'll do it, and they can go on with the other important work they do. We work closely with all the hospitals. Actually, in our service area, there are 6 hospitals that I work with. So I'm very active with most of them. In fact, on Friday, I was meeting with the folks at Alice Peck Day. 40% of the patients at Alice Peck Day are Vermonters. So I work in coordinating services with them. And a lot of what I'm talking with them about are their discharge planning services. What we hear a lot from community nurses and others is that often when older Vermonters get discharged, they don't understand their discharge orders, they don't understand the new medications they're on, they are discharged to a situation that's unsafe, that maybe there's not a caregiver available. So I'm in lots of conversations with hospitals about how can we help you make better discharges, and partly because hospitals get penalized if they have discharged a patient who comes back into their hospital within 30 days. So they get penalized for that. And my message to them is, I can help you save money, and maybe at some point you can pay me for that. So I have a whole team of case managers, I have helpline staff, I have outreach staff, which Liz is part of. The other big piece that we do is the nutrition program, and this is a little bit behind the scenes, but the Meals on Wheels program here in Hartland is administered through Senior Solutions. We get the money from the state and from the federal government to administer those programs. We go out and contract with Volunteers in Action, with Mount Scottney Hospital, who oversees the producing of the meals. We have contracts with Bugby Senior Center for their Meals on Wheels program and their congregate meals program. So actually in this area, our meals program is the most complicated in the state because we choose to use local providers instead of one commercial provider. There's a big commercial provider out of Rutland. And for instance, the Agency on Aging in Rutland has one contract. They use the commercial provider. All their meals are prepackaged. They're provided by that provider. We have basically made a values and principles decision where possible to use programs like the Bugby Senior Center or the Thompson Senior Center, where they're producing their meals locally sourced, daily, not prepackaged. So that's a massive program for us to organize. I think we have something like 25 different contracts with meal providers that we manage. And that's I don't want to misquote, but it's probably $1.5 million to $2 million program that we run. So we're really, a lot of what we do is a little bit behind the scenes. When you talk to people about Meals on Wheels, they say, Volunteers in Action, they're great because they recruit the volunteers who drive the meals. We're kind of behind the scenes, but we're actually to administrate the funds that help provide those services. We have a volunteer corps. I just wrote a grant request for volunteers. Last year we provided 5,800 hours of volunteer, and I wrote this in this application letter. The Medicaid reimbursement rate for case management is $90.34 an hour. If you apply that to the number of hours we provided for volunteer service, that's over $500,000 of unreimbursed service we provided through our volunteer program. That makes me choke up. It's amazing. I don't know what else to tell you.
Mark, you were part of a cross-section of state organizations that produced did a study and produced the Vermont Age Strong.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you could, I don't know if my colleagues ever heard of that, but if you could just touch on some of the background there. The profile is very interesting, just the profile of who the population is in Vermont on that part.
Well, so just the other thing to tell you is that I am, and the agencies on aging are very involved statewide, and we employ lobbyists, and I'm also, the agency that administers our funding is the Agency of Department of Disabilities, Aging, and Independent Living. And other states have developed a really comprehensive plan on aging for the entire state, and it addresses a number of areas like housing, transportation, food insecurity, social isolation. So 3 years ago, actually, through a big grant, I got to go to California and spend 3 days hearing about the California Plan on Aging, and came back and have been part of this statewide group that has developed a Vermont Age Strong plan, and it addresses 8 different areas of, again, housing, transportation, social isolation. I can't name all 8 of them. It's quite a comprehensive plan, and organizations like Aging in Hartland, and I'm part of an organization around the world called Wyndham Aging. We're all looking at this plan and looking at how do we partner with the state to implement these initiatives and bring Vermont kind of on board with these things. You probably know that Vermont has sort of trades places with New Hampshire and Maine for the highest mean age in the country. So, and that's actually changing rapidly, where the baby boomer population bubble is big, and the birth rate, and as you know, the other populations, age populations from Vermont are declining. So the next 5 to 10 years, more than 1 in 4 Vermonters will be 60 years of age and older. And they're really, honestly, you know this, you look at housing, you look at transportation, there just isn't the infrastructure to support that population as they age. And I see it every day. I see people who can't pay their property taxes, who can't pay their heat, who are deciding, do I buy my groceries this week, or do I buy my medications? So it's a challenge. And again, this plan is designed to help address some of those issues. How do we expand transportation? And that's actually another area that we get state money that we pass on to the mover, is we support transportation in the area. Mm-hmm. So again, there's a lot of pieces to my organization that really in some ways are behind the scenes. I go to the State House periodically. I'm advocating for legislation to support increases in reimbursement for Meals on Wheels. Right now, there's a big privacy bill, or I don't know where it landed, in the state that would really, privacy is important in terms of agencies like mine who are dealing with people. There's this tipping point, though, that it becomes onerous, and it would mean if this bill, which really is beyond the scope of what I do, would mandate that I add a lot of administrative processes and probably staff to manage these kinds of things. So we're always at this. We're looking at bills like that and advocating for what's best for our agency and best for seniors. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. I know I've been involved with reading that report and working with it, but I wanted to make sure others understood that it was out there, and that really is a set of goals for the state
Yeah,
to move.
there are towns, for instance, Middlebury has achieved dementia-friendly community status. There's a way to do that, and I think actually Hyde Park may have done it also years ago. So there are things like that, again, that we're involved with, that it's not just things like curb cuts, but it's education for vendors or your merchants. What do you do when someone with dementia comes in your place of business, and how do you respond, and how do you assist that person? So things like that I'm involved in. And just another quick, so many things. In Vermont, there are only like a handful of states in the country. People who are suffering from self-neglect behaviors, not being neglected or exploited by someone else, but self-neglecting behaviors. Instead of those referrals going to Adult Protective Services, they come to us. So again, we're seeing these really challenging, complex cases, people who are living in deplorable situations but don't really know what to do or how to change it. We're in there, and a lot of what that takes is coordinating with other systems, coordinating with health officers, coordinating with community nurses, the VNA, coordinating with all sorts of, so we're at the table in a lot of places, working with community partners, working with municipalities, and we absolutely appreciate the town funding we get. It's just one of those things. As a nonprofit, we're always a little concerned about our budgets, and certainly right now with the current continuing resolution, the Senate and House budgets, who are looking at cutting 3 squares and looking at cutting LIHEAP, which is the fuel assistance program. Imagine how many, can't tell you how many people in Hartland depend on fuel assistance to get through the winter, and that's absolutely at risk. So actually, I was listening to public radio as I was coming in, and they were queued up to talk about LIHEAP, which is the fuel assistance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
Sorry to put you on
questions?
the spot. You did a great job for coming in unprepared.
I do this a lot, so.
Yeah. Any questions?
I really appreciate the education.
Yeah.
Happy to thank you for the audience and for listening to my rapid fire description.
Yeah. No, we appreciate the work that you do, Mark, and also the fact that you are a Heartland resident and very aware of, our needs in town. So, okay. Thank you. Okay. Good. Okay. It's a little hard to go on to the grand list.
This will be short.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
Okay. We have in front of us a grand list extension request. John, again, will you step us through that, please?
Sure. So in talking with Bob and also Doug Linnell, who's been helping out, they feel the need that it's prudent to file this request for 30 days. That's the kind of the minimum, and it needs to be filed by June 4th. So this is, if we do it tonight, it's with plenty of time. It doesn't really change anything. It just is a more time for filing the abstract grand list. The intent is still to file on June 11th. So really kind of, this is a safety net in essence.
What's their current deadline without this?
June 11th. Sorry. I don't know the answer to that question. But they're on track to get everything done. There's a couple of large properties that they're out doing inspections on that are taking a little bit more time. I think we all anticipated when we moved from the board of listers to a contracted assessor, there was going to be this 4 months where there were going to be some hiccups along the way, because we didn't have a contracted assessor who wanted to pick up kind of middle of the year. So we're just kind of working through these kind of small hiccups. This is, again, relatively straightforward. And they're set to go with grievance hearings beginning on June 26th. And I'll add, it behooves everybody in town to get the grand list out as soon as possible. You know, if we take the full 30 days, it then has an impact, like downstream impacts on when tax bills can go out and things like that. So we're all very aware of that. So, you know, we're providing Bob and Doug with all the resources they need right now to get this moving along.
Well, from my days as a lister, it was SOP that we'd ask for it. You know, never used it, but we asked for it just to be.
Right, just in case.
Just an insurance policy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's this, Phil, if the board decides to move forward, Phil signs it, it gets emailed to the state tomorrow, to PBR tomorrow, Harvard Evaluation Review, and it's all set.
Okay. Do we need a motion to enact it?
I would recommend a motion to.
I would move that we grant the lister's extension.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trace. All in favor, say aye. Great.
You want to sign? Yep, you can sign it. It's fine. So, all the same.
Then we'll move on to the town manager update.
Sure. So let's check off some of the easy ones first. Just following up on some of the ones from the last time. Still trying to work with the folks who gave us the estimate for the heat pump for both the Historical Society and the furnace at the fire station, making sure that the quotes are still valid and nothing has changed in the past few months. And then once we get those set, we'll move forward with both of those projects. So we authorized using the unencumbered fund balance for cost sharing the heat pump at the Historical Society for humidity, and the furnace needs to be replaced at Station 1. We did the furnace at Station 2 earlier this year. The blacktop will be in town this summer doing some paving, but aside from that, they're going to address some of the potholes that have shown up on the Brownsville Road that they paved last summer. So not necessarily fixing all the cracks that have shown up, but you know, some of the potholes that have shown up, they're going to go back on their dime and fix those.
Is there any, there were some theories floating around. Are there any explanations as to what's emerging?
The most likely scenario is that in order to maximize the grant, we probably stretched it a little too far, and it should have been, you know, maybe come back a half mile and put more top coat down,
Okay.
and then left a section untouched. We are we are currently looking for someone to do the roadside mowing. We'll put a job ad up tomorrow. Our summer help recently informed us they got a new position, so they're not coming back this summer. So well, we've been reaching out to folks, but also put a job ad out, hopefully get somebody started, you know, with a little bit of training, jumping in the roadside mower. That's the only thing they'll be doing. We're not looking for summer highway help. We're looking for someone to drive the roadside mower. Okay. So, that was all kind of short notice in the middle of the end of last week.
Can I ask a question?
Bruce, hold on for a moment, because is it relative to the?
Yes, it's relative to the blacktop on the Brownsville Road. What my question is, if you hire a professional company to do blacktop, and wouldn't it be incumbent upon them to say, you know, this is a little thin, it's not really going to last all that long, maybe you shouldn't do as much? Did anyone have that conversation?
First, this is all water under the bridge per se. We don't know, you know, so it's a good question, but
maybe it's something we should think about in the future.
Sure.
If we're hiring professionals to do something, we shouldn't just say, oh, we want you to do it this way. But hopefully they could have.
I think generally, if it's a big project, we get an engineering study with specs, and we follow those specs. This was kind of a quick project.
It was a very quick project.
We got grant money, and we had a way to use it. So,
Point taken.
Yeah, so I think we understand your point.
It all share that.
We don't share the.
Not as far.
Gentlemen, I'd like to stay on topic here, okay? Please, John.
All right.
Okay. So we are, speaking of roads, the road foreman will be out in the end of June. He's gonna have a minor medical procedure done. He'll be out for probably a month before he's back full time. A week probably off fully, and then he will be kind of managing beginning of the week, setting the priorities for the crew. So it will have an impact on what's getting done, but
How will that
having two-
management flow during that time?
so largely we anticipate it working pretty smoothly. No significant changes. He has access to everything at home, computer, phone. So a lot of that job is kind of following up on bids and quotes and management. So, but there will be an impact, but it's better to have two working knees. So.
Okay, I hope it goes well.
Yes. Yeah. We are moving forward, and I anticipate getting quotes this week for Three Corners lights. We've been talking about this for a while. Seems like solar options, based on the existence or the lack thereof of the conduit that was laid. We can't do wired lights without tearing up a bunch of what was put down 2 years ago. It seems like there's conduit to the four corners, but not along the back wall on the triangle there. So solar lights appear to be the best option. We'll get two quotes, one that is for solar that is specifically designed.
Can you restate the geography?
So there appears to be conduit to all four corners of the intersection,
Okay.
but there is no conduit along the retaining wall but from the Sumner Mansion,
Right.
which is in essence where it gets the darkest.
But there's a pole there with power.
There is a pole there with a single light that is owned by GMP that's a little towards the Station Road side of that triangle. So the lighting contractor and I have met. We've walked the site. He's aware of the kind of the limitations of it.
And we had, Green Mountain Power had projected that they would change the light position of the Library Road.
Correct. They were willing. Yep. They can change. They can turn that light.
That's one less.
I might be wrong, but visually my brain is telling me there's a pole like directly across the street in the middle of that wall. It's partway up.
Up on the bank.
Yeah, up on the bank. In picturing it, I think it's towards the Station Road side if you're looking directly kind of kitty corner, but I could be.
But we can go and look at it after.
Right.
But there was a pole that
Right.
used to have a light on it.
Yes.
And the light was gone.
Yes. I believe that is the case. Again, I don't know.
So if that light goes back, do we have enough lighting over there?
I don't know if that provides enough light going down the walk between that and the library then. So there's a big gap there between those two poles. In essence, it's either we go put in wired lights at the four corners and then solar lights over here, whether it's 1, 2, or 5, that's to be determined by the contractor. Or we go with all solar lights that are designed to that are designed for New England winter conditions. Because the concern is they're not going to provide enough lumens in January, February, March, where they're not getting the solar recharge.
I look forward to seeing the plan that emerges.
So we'll see what comes from there. We are Phil and I are attending a Preservation Trust workshop this Thursday in Reading, which is really focused on small scale housing, small town housing and infrastructure, small town economic development. So I'll report back at the next meeting on that. We have. Tomorrow we'll finalize the contract with Two Rivers to do the Unified Development Bylaw, which was we had previously applied for the municipal planning grant for, which got denied. We are cost sharing the work with Two Rivers. Our component of that is about $8,500 is the anticipated cost for the town. Okay. So again, that'll start in summer after the 2025 town plan is done.
Okay. Do we have any sense of from the time the town plan is done to when we would have some early drafts of the...
I think late fall would be a reasonable time to have early drafts of what a unified bylaw would look like for the town.
Okay.
We're all probably aware there was an incident this past a week ago where the tractor on Route 5 the corn harvester. It is still down in the brook. They're waiting, now that it's been determined who's going to pay for the extraction of the equipment. The insurance company is sending in their kind of heavy equipment specialist to determine the best course of action for how to get it out. So it's still there. It's been drained of all the fluids, and we'll see what comes next.
Is there an update on the driver at all?
I was, by all accounts, very lucky and discharged from Dartmouth either that night or early the next morning.
I'd like to ask, how did that emergency system work for us?
It worked. I mean, largely it worked great because the call into 911, the fire department did not have the technical resources to handle it, but there are multiple departments around us who have kind of technical rescue folks, and so they largely led the rescue.
And who rerouted the traffic?
That I don't know. Green Mountain Power was here because they had to move the pole that was knocked down. The power was out in the village for 6 to 8 hours.
Some of the photographs show the state police were there.
Okay.
Right. So, but we'll see what comes next. It's at this point, it's just getting the harvester up the embankment. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of good options there. But so we'll let people know. If there's a road closure coming, we'll give people as much notice as we can. So the 550, everybody's favorite piece of machinery in the town.
I don't want to smile, but
well, you're not going to want to. We're moving backwards to a certain extent. Our trade-in offer was rescinded by the dealership in retrospect. So we are now in contact with the folks who had done the original repairs to see if they might know somebody who wants. We're just trying to sell it directly to somebody at this point with the new engine. There's a small issue in that, with the warranty on the engine, they have to send the engine core back, but that's something that we can handle. So again, it's still sitting in Lebanon, but hopefully one of these meetings we're going to have a forward progress update on that.
And this is the garage up the river in Thetford?
This is the garage up the river in Thetford that did the original engine replacement, correct. And then we talked last meeting about a backhoe replacement. Well, first, let me say the road crew has been doing an excellent job. They all came in on Saturday in the rain to, stay ahead of it, basically. They were fixing washouts and clearing culverts all day Saturday. So largely, without incident, everything seems to have handled the 2 or 3 inches of rain that we got on Saturday. So kind of kudos to the road crew first. We do need to make a decision about a backhoe, which was talked about at the last meeting. We now have 2 quotes. We cannot find a third dealer. So we have 2 quotes, and we talked about this at the last meeting. This is coming from the equipment fund. One's a Cat and one's a John Deere. So the John Deere is coming from United Construction and Forestry, and then Milton Cat. The price difference between the 2 is about $35,000 between the 2. It's my recommendation that we go with the cheaper of the 2, which is the one that is also would be encouraged by the road crew as well in talking with the road foreman. That's one that they would like as well. But it does require us to take action somewhat immediately because we're in essence buying a special that they're offering in the month of June. So we would need to pay for and take delivery in June. So it's our purchase price on that the Cat 440 is after the trade-in is $155,000. $155,500.
I'm sorry, this is the backhoe.
This is the backhoe.
And how old is it?
The backhoe now is, I think it's a 2019. It's not very old, but it is, if you look at the invoices we just signed, we spent $800 in the past month in fixing hydraulic lines. So it's the most used piece of equipment that we have. We need it to be operational when we need it, which is nearly daily.
So is Cat the low price?
Cat is the low price. Cat is the low price.
Where's the dealership for Caterpillar?
It's Milton Cat. I mean, offices all over.
Yeah, okay.
So is that a piece of equipment that should get more life? Or?
Well, they put it on the road, and the tires on a piece of equipment like that are way more expensive than the hydraulic hoses. And if they're running it on the road, and they have been since, what's that, 6 years?
6 years. It's also my understanding from talking with them, the design of this one, they don't have access to any of the interior of the arm of the backhoe, basically, so they have to pull the lines up. They can't. So in essence, they can't figure out which one is leaking or patch a leak. They have to pull the line out, put it back in, which is this very long and kind of time-consuming process.
And who does that process?
We are doing that. Largely, we are doing that.
And the last time it failed, it had to be trucked off the road to the garage.
To the garage, right.
Yeah, I know nothing about this scale of equipment. Are the warranties roughly the same?
Yeah, everything basically, they're about the same machine, the John Deere versus the Cat.
And what's a monthly payment on that?
So my recommendation would that we buy it outright using the balance of the equipment fund. So currently there's just shy of $400,000. That's an unaudited balance in the equipment fund. That does not account for the $165,000 that we're transferring in at the end of June. So in essence, we'd be able to buy the backhoe and maintain the equipment fund balance of $400,000.
And everything else that we're moving forward on for replacements is already accounted for?
No. So the F600 that we purchased, that's the cabin chassis that's in the shop, is paid for. We have not paid for the plow package that needs to go on that, which is about $35,000. The Western Star 10-wheeler that we are replacing, that we essentially ordered, that was $275 with the plow package. We're getting up $75,000 each for the two trade-ins that we're giving them. So we're going to owe $125,000 out of the equipment fund when we take ownership of that,
So
which will likely not be until
35 is 160.
right, which
Out
will
of 400.
likely not be. So the 35 to finish the 600 will be FY26.
Yeah.
It's
So funding
more money will be coming back in, to the equipment fund.
All right.
Could you do a combination of money down and loan?
We could. It just adds to our monthly
Increase the cost.
exactly. This doesn't hurt us in any way, in my opinion, to pay for it outright, and then we don't have a monthly payment. We just finished paying off the loader, so right now we're payment free, and if we do this, we stay payment free. And it leaves the equipment fund with plenty of money for anything else that may really like famous last words that may come up unexpectedly.
Are you looking for an approval?
So I think there was largely an approval at the last meeting, but there was
we agreed in concept.
right, but there was
But we didn't make a motion.
correct. That's correct. So you all would need to approve this expenditure of the purchase of the backhoe with money from the equipment fund.
I think
Up to what?
well, I think you ought to bring in the quote that you want to go with next meeting when you approve the quote. Yeah.
So I have the quote right here.
No. Can you pass it around?
Ready.
Is there a state tax?
It was included in the price. We're getting $35,000 for the trade-in on the existing backhoe, which is the same from the John Deere wanted to give us $38,000. The price still came out better on the Cat.
How do the features of this new one compare to the old one? Are we doing the right thing and stepping up and getting some features that would actually make the road crew more efficient?
Yeah, so this machine is actually slightly bigger than the machine that we have now. Okay. It would traditionally be more expensive, but because of the specials that we're able to get through CAT, it's coming in at a cheaper price than this than what would be the equivalent size machine.
A lot of these things are probably made abroad, so tariff wise, I'm wondering.
No, it sounds like in talking with Milton Cat, you know, we'd have to, they have something, I want to say he said North Carolina, but in essence, like getting one that's already here. And you gotta remember, so we're transferring in 165 at the end of June, the full amount. Beginning in FY26 or beginning in July, the plan is to move the equipment transfer up to $235,000 a year.
Right, that's approved.
That's the approved budget, right? So we are increasing the amount that's going into the equipment fund.
This comes with all of these. I know the contractor that just bought a piece of equipment the other day that came without anything on it. He didn't read the fine print.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but they're anticipating a thumb, live thumb.
Yep.
There's dead thumbs, there's live thumbs.
Yep.
And they understand it's got four-wheel drive.
Yep.
I mean,
yes, yeah,
the weights to go in the tires, everything is on this thing.
everything is on that. It's replacing what we had. The one thing that it's worth noting is that, you know, much like a car, we are aware that the tires, because you mentioned it, that are going to come on a piece of equipment might not be the tires that we are going to have that are going to last us for a long time. They probably will need to be replaced, you know, in the next 4 or 5 years, probably.
Yeah, those tires are a lot of money.
Right, they're a lot of money. We just replaced a couple on the
Just in my
loader.
tractor tires.
Right. We are.
It's a wound.
Right. It was agreed.
And lease payments would be more expensive, it looks like.
Yep.
And there's a 7-year, 4,000 warranty, so that's all included.
That's all. That's yeah. in the price.
7-year warranty.
All right.
And that's probably pretty
So,
limited with,
no, sure.
yeah.
But are there any objections? Should we do a motion?
Given the explanation of the finances, I think we should go ahead and buy it outright. Yeah. And I'll defer to if yourself and the road crew feel the cat over the John Deere, then that's plus the price.
Right, plus the price. Yeah.
And they have the same hydraulics. So Cat and John Deere can you switch it over for controls?
That I don't know the answer to. Switch it over.
Well, we have, I think we have a cat today.
We have a case. Our backhoe right now is a case. All of our other heavy equipment is cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just asked BJ if they can switch over the controls. Just ask them that question. So that they can run it, because there's 2 different types of controls. Up is down and down is up in some of these. So when you get in, I'm sure most of the newer equipment has the ability to switch it over.
Because it's actually,
You learn a certain way.
it's drive-by-wire instead of, you know, so the switch, it's a switch as opposed to.
I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
An actuator.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer from the equipment fund of $155,500 to purchase a 2024 Caterpillar 400 wheel loader backhoe.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Trace. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Okay. We'll make 5 people down the road very happy. Yeah. That is it for my update. Yeah.
You see how that was just four-wheel drive? It's not just a two-wheel drive.
Future agenda items, John just spoke of the intersection lights. North Hartland covered bridges, what do we do?
It's basically in a holding pattern. The state had done some work. The but it's my understanding that the money that they were going to use to pay for the North Bridge is no longer available to them. So the project's just been delayed, in essence.
Okay. This is off topic, excuse me, but we are doing something with the erosion issue, by just north of the bridges there in North Hartland.
We are not actively doing anything about the erosion issue just north of the bridges.
Okay. I was I was confused by.
We are aware of the issue.
Okay.
But not actively doing anything.
Right now, it's on private land.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. Cemetery committee?
No update, we'll keep that, I'd like to keep that on there, because I'd reach out to Daryl Hawkins.
And again, Burke Hill Road,
No updates.
Okay. Lull Farm Lane?
I spoke with.
On Bird Hill, not Bird Hill specifically,
Yeah.
but on the issue of taking private roads public. I think Tom had mentioned this a while back, we should probably have a policy, and part of that policy might be, we don't generally do it, right? Unless the road's brought up, and bridges are brought up to Vermont standards, and there's a true public benefit to it. Otherwise, our 77 miles of private road, 77 private roads.
77, yeah, it was number 6.
Could be a huge expense.
Right, so we'd want to, having a private road acceptance policy is something we can work on. Yeah.
Oh, good catch. Okay. Lull Farm Lane, you were about to.
So I spoke with Theodore Ambrose today. Scheduling remains a challenge to find a time, even though they're not necessarily required to be present. It's helpful, I was explaining that due to the complexity of the situation, it seems like having them there would be beneficial. So we're trying to find a time that will.
Are they away from the summer?
It would appear that Mondays are problematic. We were talking about July, and they're away visiting family. So it continues. We'll continue to try to find a time that we can do it.
Okay.
But it's not a crisis.
It is not a crisis at the moment.
If nothing ever changes.
Right. We want to address it, but at this point, it's fine.
Okay. Any correspondence?
No.
Okay. Dare I say, I think we're finished. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Just, these meetings go really fast when Tom's not here.